vowing to drop out of the Congressional District 1 race if one of his progressive rivals polls better than him is a strategy candidates use to help create a media moment for themselves, something Senator Blouin has proven to be particularly adept at. If you're following his Instagram page, he's been seen talking with people like Walter Masterson. I did have to look this one up. Masterson is an American comedian, actor, political satirist, and content creator, according to Wikipedia. Along with people like Hassan Piker, Saikat Chakrabarti, who's running for California's 11th district, Katie Fang of the Midas Touch Network, Brody Levin, who's a local climate activist, Josh Green of The Pulse, and Daryl Lindsay of the Yard Farmer fame, another local influencer. These are just a few of the folks he's been chatting with. All of this to say, Blouin is currently using a tried and tested political tactic. Essentially, he's trying to drive the other progressives out of the race before the primary election, to demonstrate to voters that he's the more pragmatic and vote-worthy candidate, and to shore up his left flank so that he can't then pivot into attacking Adams more directly without having to also defend on all sides. And there's no surprise that this news is coming out the day before the Congressional District 1 debate, happening tonight on PBS. With me today to talk about this strategy is Thom DeSirant. Thom is the former executive director of the Utah Democratic Party, a two-term city councilman for Mill Creek City, and the principal and founder of Fulcrum Campaigns. Welcome around the counter, Thom.
Hey, thanks, Molly.
Hey,
I will say I was really surprised. I didn't hear about Nate going and speaking with Saikat. That's really surprising for me because Saikat is running to replace Nancy Pelosi. And running against Scott Wiener, Senator Wiener, who is kind of like one of the most well-known YIMBY legislators in the nation. He's really pushed a bunch of YIMBY abundance-pilled sort of legislation. So it's interesting to see that. Sorry, I cut you off. Surprised me.
No, you're great. It was a fun find myself. Can you explain YIMBY for us, just in case folks don't know?
Yeah, YIMBY and NIMBY are different terms, are kind of like opposites. They stand for yes in my backyard and not in my backyard.
Specifically talking about housing and putting more houses in certain areas in your neighborhoods, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Okay, that's really cool. I didn't realize that Saikat was running against, or Chakrabarti was running against Wiener, because he's a very interesting one, because California, San Francisco specifically, has a lot of issues with housing, and so to have someone who's claiming to be able to do more than Wiener, I think is a pretty bold claim.
Yeah, he kind of Saikat, from what I've seen, has been really coming from the just the progressive left side, not necessarily the YIMBY side. And I know Nate is someone who is very much on board with kind of the abundance agenda and is pro housing. So I'm surprised to hear that.
Yeah. Can you explain what the abundance agenda is?
Yes. So Abundance was a book that came out, I think
last year, right?
A year ago. Last year.
Yeah.
It was by Derek Thompson and Ezra Klein, and kind of the focus of it was creating kind of a positive agenda that Democrats could run behind, that was pro-growth, and said, part of the reason why we have part of the reason why things are bad in America is because Democrats have gotten in our own way and made it so that we can't do anything. It's not just housing, take California high-speed rail. A project that has been in the works for over a decade. The cost overruns are massive, and it's so difficult for them to build that high-speed rail in California that's desperately needed. Everyone knows the traffic in LA is terrible. The traffic in California is just awful.
Yeah.
And it's impossible for Democrats to build things and to do good and to make people's lives meaningfully better because we've put up all of these artificial constraints that make it impossible for us to do anything, whether it's with permitting or for environmental reasons. And don't get me wrong, there certainly need to be environmental regulations, but we've made it impossible for us to do anything. We couldn't do what FDR did today because we have gotten in our own way.
So you're a two-term city council member representing Mill Creek. Do you use any of the abundance agenda in the work that you do on the city council?
Absolutely. It's what I do all the time. It's what I ran on. Even before abundance was a thing, what I really liked about abundance was it created a framework for kind of everything that I had been believing in and working on. So a lot of people in Utah probably know Mill Creek Common. It's where our city hall is. It's a large open space that we created, where there's an ice skating rink and roller skating. There's a splash pad. There's the tallest outdoor climbing wall in the state.
Cool.
Phase 2 opens up next year. It'll have a skate park. It'll have a giant 15 to 18 foot moose that kids can play inside of. It's a playground
Inside the moose?
Yes.
Wow.
There's the only outdoor mini golf in the northern half of Salt Lake County will be there, and then a large, what we're calling a splash creek.
Cool.
It's not just a pad, a splash pad. It's, there's a waterfall and it runs down 100 feet or so. But I think that's a great example of the abundance, kind of the agenda of working with private partners and with public, other levels of government to really quickly build something. We'll have, at the end of it, 1,800 units of new housing there. Mill Creek
Wow.
Common was built quickly, and I think what Democrats need to do more in Utah and around the country is say, give the citizens something that they want, give them a plan for that, and then deliver on it quickly. Mill Creek Common was built very quickly and very intentionally, and I have people from other cities, council members from other cities, saying that they can't believe that we did all of this so fast. As a reminder, Mill Creek hasn't been a city. This is the 10th year that Mill Creek is a city.
Wow. Yeah, I had someone tell me the other day that they felt like Mill Creek Commons was like a triumph of local government. Do you think that's right?
Yeah.
That's cool.
It really is. And, there was a lot of pushback that we got on it at the very beginning, and even before I was elected, there was pushback. And
What kind of pushback?
Nobody wants this. No one will ever go to this. This is going to be a failure. It's going to put the city in so much debt that you can't imagine that we'll never be able to recover from. And those voices are largely silent now. They still they'll still pop off on a Facebook group every once in a while complaining about something, but for the most part, it's silent. We have huge events at Mill Creek Common, very popular ones, so popular it's gotten to the point where we have to put up tickets
Wow.
and charge people to come. The Doxy Derby is very, very popular. That's where we have Dachshunds race. It got so popular last year that we had to start doing tickets. Our 4th of July event, we had to put tickets on. Our New Year's Eve event, it's all ticketed. But we have great events there all the time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, every
Well, and it's-
Sunday. I will just say one last thing about that. Every Sunday there's a big bazaar. A lot of local creators come. So come by on a Sunday from 11 to 4.
Cool. It's really nice to talk to someone who wants to create like a third space, a public space for others. I've been thinking a lot about this idea of neighborism, which is where you come together, your neighbors, and that actually reduces the risk of like fascism, of othering each other. It like reduces hate. And I feel like this is something that you as a city council have intentionally created to continue that idea, to create this idea of neighborism. And I love to hear it directly from a sitting council person.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump into some of the Nate Blouin Congressional District 1 stuff. I'd like to start by listening to Nate's personal plea to his opponents on Instagram. So let me just share that really quick.
Campaigns like this take a lot out of you. I can tell you that now. It takes a lot out of your family. They are worth doing because our community deserves the best representation possible. In my mind, that is a strong progressive with a track record of fighting back against the establishment, against the forces that are preventing us from passing things like Medicare for all, like ending genocide in Gaza, like raising the minimum wage and getting big money out of politics. We need to change all these things to reinvent a system that will actually work for working people. Ben McAdams is not the candidate to do that. We have to be united as progressives. So I made the decision to spearhead a poll that will have us all listed. Voters will get to decide. And if I am not the leading progressive in that poll, I will drop out of this race and support a trusted progressive who can beat Ben McAdams. Because in the end, that's what this is all about. It's about choosing between the status quo or better leadership that will actually move our community forward. I reached out to other candidates. We didn't get responses in time. This is urgent at this point. Ballots go out on Tuesday, and without starting this thing tomorrow, we would not have results before ballots are in people's hands. So I felt like it was critical to move forward with any strategy we could to unify progressives behind one candidate and challenge the establishment, challenge Ben McAdams and the money that is coming in from AIPAC, from the New Dems, from other outside groups funded by big conservative corporate interests, because that is never going to move the needle for our community. So I am calling on the other progressive candidates in this race, Liban Mohammed and Michael Farrell, to make the same commitment that I have to progressives, to our voters, to the movement, to exit this race if you aren't positioned to win it. I've made that commitment, and I think we all owe it to the people that we are running to represent to put forward our strongest option and to make sure that we do not let the establishment win again. The decision to run for the...
Well,
So, what do you think?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack about this. Lots to talk about. One thing that so I've seen that video a few times. One thing that actually popped out to me just now, and I looked it up on TikTok to like fast forward to that specific section to make sure I had it. He said that he would drop out if he wasn't leading. So there was a trusted progressive could win. One thing that's been really interesting is Nate's been his campaign has really been hammering the other progressive candidates. I guess circling back, going back to just the premise of this. His other progressive opponents have all said that they're not going to do this. I think that it's a good argument from him to go and say to people. I think he is probably the leading candidate out of the three, of Michael and Liban.
Even though Liban won at the Democratic convention?
Yeah. Convention is totally different than a primary. Look at the Republicans. Look at Blake Moore. Blake has lost every single convention he's ever been a part of and has won every single primary that he's ever been in.
That's a fun fact.
Yeah, conventions aren't the same as primaries.
Okay.
Conventions are a state convention. It's, for the Democrats, it's 2,000 to 2,500 delegates who, are hobbyists, you could say, and who are involved in the Democratic Party in one way or another. For a lot of people, this is kind of their social world. Whereas for, for you and me, we work in this. This is just our job and our career. This is, for most delegates, this is something that they do, once a year, and maybe they'll volunteer a little bit, or maybe they repost stuff on social media. They're not representative of the average Democratic voter or unaffiliated voter who's voting in the primary.
I think the video is really interesting, for me, because Blouin is using this video both to call for other candidates to drop out while also simultaneously pushing forward his particular platform, right? He did successfully gain quite a bit of media about this. ABC4's Lindsay Aerts on Politics posted it. KUER had it. The Salt Lake Tribune's Robert Gerke had it. And the Deseret News had a piece about it. So I guess it brings to mind that this seems to me kind of like a tactic that a candidate might use to demonstrate that they think they're stronger than another candidate, in this case, than the other two progressives. So is this kind of media attention a strategy? Like, do you agree with that? And does it play into the broader strategy that Blouin is playing in this race?
Yeah, and I think that it's a good move by his campaign. If I were in his spot, I would do that. I haven't seen any internal polling from any candidates. The only polling I saw was the poll that he released earlier.
That Blouin released?
That Blouin released.
Yeah.
And, my guess is that right now all polling has been up by a significant amount. And
do you want to make any guesses on that significant amount? Are we prognosticating today?
I don't know. Like, I would guess that Ben is somewhere in the mid to high 50s, and everybody else is trailing behind. I'd guess that Nate is second.
Even with all of the controversies that you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, I would. The controversies, I guess you're referring to, his social media posts from, about 10 years ago, where he said some pretty bad stuff. It talked about defecating in an LDS church parking lot. I think that he's still up high. There's just obviously right after all of that came out, a lot of people kind of jumped ship and abandoned him. I think that there's been enough time where people have decided, he's still the best shot at a progressive candidate to be the nominee for the party. So, and even, looking at, well, this isn't the best thing, like looking at comments and social media interactions, Nate still, I think, gets significantly more than the other two progressive candidates.
Okay, so there are some other people online, now that we're talking about comments, who do publicly think that this is nothing but a stunt. So Senator Todd Weiler, who is...
Sorry, go
Senator,
ahead.
no, you're good. So Senator Todd Weiler, who is a colleague of Blouin's in the state Senate, said on Twitter or X, quote, "An ill-timed publicity stunt. Nate won't drop out, but he will blame the other two when McAdam wins," end quote. Is Senator Weiler right about that?
Yeah. The other two have said that they won't drop out. And they have no reason to. It's too late anyway. The ballots are printed. The ballots are going to be mailed out. This is a good political move by the Blouin campaign to, label himself as the progressive who cares about the seat more than himself. But I don't think that it's enough to actually do anything.
Say that he actually wanted, like, this was so we're positing here that it's a stunt. Say that this was a genuine, thing that he was trying to do. To me, it seems like it's too early. You talked about that. Ballots are coming June 2nd. That's in 3 business days. So for him to actually have been realistic about this, plus polls take a while to go out, craft the questions, go out into the field, come back, get talked about, be discussed. I think he'd realistically have to be doing this 1st of May. This would have to have been a post convention discussion, not something that's happening 3 days before ballots go out, right?
Yeah, I would say that's accurate.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that, it's a stunt. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing for him to do. I think that it's probably the right move for him. But I think that it really is just too late.
Yeah.
So look, I think that... So both of the other candidates, Michael and LeBond, have both said that they're not going to drop out. While I'll say this is a good, kind of thing for Blouin's campaign to do, and I would do it if I were in his spot. If I were in Michael or LeBond's spot, I would say, in order for my campaign to, consider this, we need to see the polling, we need to see the questions that were asked, and we need to see the crosstabs, and we need to understand how you weighted it.
Oh.
And then I would take the unweighted results. I would take that to somebody who is a supporter of mine, a statistician who is friendly to me, and I would say, I want you to weight it so that I actually win in this. And then I would turn around and say, Nate, I agree. Your weighting is wrong. Here's the proper weighting of the survey. You did it wrong. I have a statistician who says that I actually won or I'm in the margin of error. You need to drop out.
Okay, so you would take Nate's political stunt and you would turn it against him, essentially, and make it favorable for Thom DeSiren.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to remember that when you run for CD1 in 2 years, Thom.
You don't have to worry about that. No, and this is the same thing with the poll that Nate released earlier. Mm-hmm. The poll doesn't really mean anything. It's an internal poll that has, we don't know how it was weighted. And it also was, he won the informed ballot. And an informed ballot is really just the pollster calling somebody and saying, hey, asking a couple of like default questions and then saying, in this race in CD1, who are you voting for?
Right.
Randomly listing the people and then saying, okay, great. Now, here's some information about Nate and here's some information about Ben. Who are you supporting now?
I see.
And then them saying who they're supporting. But
that's not really how voters get information, is it?
No. You don't vote by having somebody that Nate pays call you and say, here is what Nate wants you to know about him, and here's what Nate wants you to know about his opponent.
Right.
And this gets into the money question. How like you asked, how do voters that's not how voters vote. That's not how they get their information. They get their information through paid and through unpaid media.
Okay.
Or what we call earned media. Mm-hmm. So earned media is media that it is stuff that the campaign puts out and it either blows up, it goes viral on social media, or that the news picks up and runs with it. So yes.
This viral stunt is some earned media.
Yeah, it's some earned media. And it's good earned media. He put it out. He said, I'm willing to sacrifice my campaign for the better of the progressive movement. I will drop out if the poll says I should. No, the poll won't say that he should, and he knows that. But that's some great, that's some great earned media.
Okay.
But the other way is through. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, the other way is through paid media or from directly canvassing, and I'm sure all the campaigns are calling, they're knocking on doors, and I'll say knocking on doors is the most effective way to change somebody's mind. There's been multiple studies about it. I know this, you know this, but the listeners may not. Knocking on a door, having a one-on-one conversation with a voter saying, I think that you should support this candidate and here's why, is by the most effective way to change someone's mind.
And it's also the hardest. Yeah. Well, and candidates, some of them like it more than others. And, you and I have both knocked thousands of doors at this point, and it can be hard. I was out there knocking for a candidate last Saturday. I was just dripping sweat, and I was like, oh man, I'm just really feeling toasty, and we're in, mid-May. Can't wait for August canvassing.
Yeah, I remember in 2017, in the summer, there was a week or so of triple-digit temperatures, and I made the mistake of canvassing some of the hillier parts of the Salt Lake City 7 district, and I definitely went into a little bit of heat strokey area, and it's so embarrassing. I knocked on a door and a woman answered, and I started giving my pitch, and I was not exactly coherent, and she was like, hey, come inside, let me get you some water. And I was like, you're not generally supposed to go inside someone's house when you're canvassing.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't speak right I'm not saying like I can't do this. I should probably sit down. So they get voters get their information through that, but largely it's through paid media.
Okay. What does paid
And,
media look like for you?
That's I'd say that's texting, that's billboards. I haven't seen anybody with a billboard.
Not yet.
Not yet, but soon.
Well, have there been, did Carrie Ann Lisenby do some Salt Lake Blake billboards?
Oh, I'm sure, but
Did I see that?
Probably.
Okay.
I haven't gone north yet, so I haven't seen them. I haven't
Okay.
been north in a little bit, but probably. That's billboards, that's newspaper ads, which is less common. Now it's more like digital
But still
ads.
digital ads, yeah.
Digital ads, video ads, which both Nate and Ben have some digital video ads up.
Yep.
We call that, so when you see an ad on like Hulu or on YouTube, that's called CTV ads. It's a cable ad. Or my favorite, of course, mailers.
Yeah.
I love a mailer. I have a large collection of mailers that I have.
Me too.
Multiple binders. So
Yeah,
That's
it's such a funny thing to be a part of a campaign and like work on campaigns for so long. The like detritus that you have, like people are like, "Hey, I think I want to do a mailer," and I whip out my Manila envelopes and I'm like, "Let's look at the options. This phrasing is good. This is a really bad mailer. You know, this family looks adorable in this one."
Well, it's nice for me because this is what I do with my firm. I specialize in fundraising and paid media, and so somebody's like, "Okay, we need to do I need to make a walk piece for a candidate," and it's like, "All right,
What's a
what do I
walk
wanna
piece?
do?" A walk piece. Thank you. Something like a door hanger or typically like a 6x9 kind of placard that you can leave at somebody's door.
Yeah, so like when just a random person, a voter, like when I walk out my door and there's a piece of like there's something that's been a designed thing that's been left by a candidate, that's a walk piece usually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And typically when canvassing, people will hand it to you at the door when you open the door, or they leave it behind. So,
Yeah. Okay, so in all of this, like, this takes a lot of money. So this morning I went and I looked at the FEC filings, the Federal Election Commission filings, and McAdams does have a significant fundraising advantage over, like, the entire field. So this morning, total raised, McAdams was reporting $1.5 million. Blouin has raised $525,000. That's McAdams is 3 times that. Farrell has raised $245,000. Mohammed has raised $121,000, and the Republican Owen Montgomery has raised $98,000. So, how does money play into some of these earned media, paid media pieces here, and how does that help? Like, I guess keeping in line with the theme, like Nate got a lot of really good earned media by doing this stunt, which means he didn't have to spend some of his hard-earned donor dollars on media.
So, candidate money raised is good, but I think what's more important is cash on hand.
I don't have those numbers. Sorry.
I pulled the numbers about a month ago,
Okay.
right before convention. Actually, I guess it was 2 weeks before convention. And before convention, Ben had raised, and I think I don't think there have been a new FEC report. So
I don't think
Ben
so
had
either.
raised, $1.5 million, but he still had $863,000 on hand.
Okay.
Nate had $230,000 on hand.
Wow. So he like really was sitting on it at that point.
Yeah. Farrell had $88,000 on hand. And Farrell has largely self-funded his entire campaign. So all of Farrell's money was self-funded. And we saw some financial disclosures that all the candidates had to do. Farrell still has a pretty significant amount of money on hand that he could pull from. Liban had $24,000 on hand. Now, granted, this is right after they had all qualified for the ballot. Or no, it wasn't. They were still, yeah, I think it was. They had just all finally qualified for the ballot.
Was Farrell 2 weeks before? He was the last one to qualify, I thought. Or was it Liban? I was not sure.
They both got it around the same time.
Okay, yeah.
But they both paid for signatures, and from what I heard, signature gathering companies were fairly, I guess, gouging their prices up and charging between $40 to $50 a signature.
$50 a signature?
That's what I had heard from some friends.
So how many signatures did these folks need to get on the ballot?
They needed 7,000.
That's a pretty expensive way to get on the ballot then.
That is. But if it's that or the convention, getting signatures is the best way to guarantee that you can get on the primary ballot.
I mean, I think Eva Lopez Chavez is a great example here. She tried to get signatures. She wasn't quite successful. She lost at convention, and her race is done. It's over.
Yeah.
Whereas these other folks, they're continuing on into the primary.
Yeah, and, Ava got close. She got just under 6,000.
Yeah, she was very close.
Yeah.
Okay. So thinking a little bigger picture. Sorry. Did you
No,
have more?
I was just gonna say they had to raise that money and then spend it at the last moment. And there's only so many signature gathering companies, and so they had to spend it. So Liban had 24,000 on hand around convention, but that's not it. There's actually more money that they could get after convention. So the way that the FEC has fundraising laws is you are allowed to raise $3,500, and this goes up every single year, the amount. You're able to raise a maximum of $3,500 for each election you have. So
Per person? Like per individual person?
Per individual.
Okay. So like
$3,500.
Molly Jones couldn't donate to Liban Mohammed $10 million, which I totally have.
Correct.
I would be capped at $3,500 regardless of how much I wanted to donate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now there's ways around that. There are super PACs. There are there are ways around that, but directly to the campaign, it's $3,500 per election. And that doesn't mean, though, $3,500 and that's it. You can actually write a $10,500 check to a congressional candidate in Utah, because convention is an election and the primary is an election.
Oh, so I could write 3 separate $3,500 checks.
You could, or you could actually just write one $10,500 check, and the campaign has to do their compliance and set that money aside in a bucket for later.
Interesting. So I can do a one-time sum large fee, or I can pay 3 separate smaller fees, capped if I wanted to.
Yep.
Interesting.
So for each election, you can do up to $3,500.
Wait, sorry, real quick. My question, though, is you said that Michael Farrell has largely self-funded. Are there caps if you are personally donating to your own campaign?
No.
Okay, so for example, I'm just making this up here. I haven't looked at the numbers. Like, if I'm Michael Farrell, I could donate $100,000 to my own campaign, no problems. But you, Thom DeSirant, could only donate $10,500 in one bucket.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
So, in fact, when Michael Bloomberg ran for president in 2020, he did not accept any donations. He took $1 billion or so from his own massive amount of wealth and gave that to his campaign.
Wow. What's that like? Whew.
Couldn't tell you.
Okay, well, you and I, we're making all the millions here as a podcaster and a campaign manager.
Lips to God's ears. So after convention, so I did the research. The numbers that I gave you earlier, and that you said earlier, that $15 million that Ben raised, $500,000 that Nate raised.
1.5 million for Ben, not 15.
Oh, sorry, 1.5. Thank you. That was just their convention money.
Oh, okay. And we haven't seen a new disclosure because the primary is coming up and they'll have to disclose before the primary, but they haven't done that quite yet. That deadline is
Yeah.
soon.
But I can
Okay.
actually tell you about the money that they raised before. Sorry, how do I say this? The data is in the FEC for money that they got access to after convention.
Okay.
So after convention,
So that's those buckets that are set aside, then they can access them.
yeah. So after convention, Ben automatically just got another $420,000 that he had pre-raised but didn't have access to.
Wow. That's
Me?
really helpful to just have that cash infusion.
Yeah. So he got a $400,000 cash infusion. Nate had a $45,000 infusion.
That's a 10x difference.
Yes. And
Wow.
neither Levon or Michael had any. So Ben is closer to 2 million than the 15 million.
Wow.
And that was just after convention.
Wow. Okay. So shifting gears a little bit, I want you to put on your executive director of the Democratic Party hat. I know that you're no longer in that role, but I want to talk a little bit about how a party or a group of people might work together. Because I think Nate's purpose is trying to drive Liban and Michael out of the race. And I do think that is something that happens from time to time. So if a party wanted to clear the field for a preferred candidate, what does that actually look like day to day? Is it an explicit directive from party leadership, a series of subtle systemic nudges? Is it meetings, discussions? Is it something else entirely?
Yeah, great question. So this, frankly, doesn't happen too much in the Utah Democratic Party. It definitely does happen in other parties, and it happens a little bit in Utah, but not too much. And really, that's limited to pre-filing, talking to candidates and saying, hey, I know that you're interested in running in this race. There's another candidate who's really strong and that's already doing the work. Would you think about maybe running in this other race where we don't have a candidate, or would you consider supporting them? However, once filing happens, that's kind of it. The state party has it in its constitution that it cannot do anything to support any candidate in an intra-party race. In fact, with every single candidate that I hired, every potential employee that I hired, upon hiring, I told them that it is a fireable offense for you to support any candidate over another. We have fired people for this before, and we will fire you if you ever support a candidate.
Wow.
In fact, in 2022, that was the year that Evan McMullen, independent, ran. And that was my first year as the ED. I inherited the previous ED staff. And some of the staff were very much in support of Evan McMullen over Cale Weston. And I had to tell them, doesn't matter. There was a plan at convention for people to. We didn't really know what it was like early on, and eventually what it was a motion to not support any Democratic candidate for Senate, to not nominate anyone, and to support Evan McMullen. But before that, they said they didn't really want to do anything with Evan McMullen or with Cale Weston, the Democratic nominee, and I told them until convention, unless something happens, until he drops out or is not nominated, he is a Democratic candidate, and you have to support him in every single way that you would support anybody else. And about a week or two later, one of the employees who was very, very passionate about Evan McMullen gave me his notice and left the party to work on Evan's campaign.
Wow. So how would a party determine, that's a really interesting and unique situation to have independent candidate trying to prevent a Democratic candidate from getting nominated. But rolling back further, how would a party determine if they had a preferred candidate? Like, there's no mechanism that a party does that. Like, the Democratic Party of Utah is not saying we prefer, X candidate over Y candidate, because the purpose is to let the delegates and the voters ultimately decide. And that's why we put forward, like in the CD1 race, 4 different candidates, and they've got 2 alternate paths, the convention caucus system and also the signature path. And you're essentially, as the party, saying, great, here are the people that want to do this job. And your job is just to kind of serve them up on a platter to the voters and the delegates. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Obviously, when there are targeted races, the party leadership will actively work to recruit candidates. So
That's like a big part of your job as executive director, right?
Yes, a huge part. So, and it's recruiting candidates everywhere, but also specifically finding really good candidates to run in swing seats. And in Utah, that tends to be state House and state Senate races, as well as county level races.
Okay.
And so, in the past, we've there have been times where there'll be multiple people who will file, and in order to try to get as many seats filled and as many candidates filed, there have been times where I've called someone and said, hey, there's, great to see that you're interested in running for this House district. There's a candidate who's already running in the House district. They put in some work, they've raised money, they have a website. We don't have anybody in the Senate district. And a lot of times candidates, those potential candidates will be like, oh, yeah, absolutely, I'd love to. And
Okay.
it's simple. But if they say no, then they say no, and they get to do that.
Is there like a strategic vision or a plan that would help you like navigate that one way or the other? Like, are you sitting around in a room deciding like, okay, HD1 is really important to us today and SD5 is important to us today? Like, talk to me about some of those like discussions.
Yeah, we look at past performance. We kind of have, seats that are like just really uncompetitive. We have seats that are really competitive, and then we have seats that are not competitive right now, but have some potential to be competitive in the future. We kind of prioritize, those levels 1, 2, 3.
How do you define competitive though? Like, what are the metrics for that?
I think the first thing that we do is we look at what seats have the potential to flip, what seats are swing seats that go back and forth, and then we look at what seats could be competitive if there's a really strong candidate. So let's go back 10 years and look at the old House District 32. That was Sandy and some other parts of the southern Salt Lake County. That was a seat that was not a competitive seat until Suzanne Harrison ran in it. Suzanne Harrison, now in the county council, serving at large. That House district, I think the year before, the Republicans had won it by 10 points, but Suzanne is a well-known overachiever. She raised 6 figures 10 years ago, which was a lot of money back then. She canvassed the district multiple times. She ended up losing by 5 votes. 2 years later, she went and flipped it. Very, very
Wow.
easy. So there are times where there is a district that is like, oh, we think in 5-10 years with demographic changes, with, kind of some voting patterns changing, we're seeing over time, we think this district could be a swing seat in the future. Maybe there's a just phenomenal candidate who comes out and you go, oh, well, actually, we're going to focus on them.
Interesting. And then there's also like so I'm thinking of last year. I'm pretty sure it was in 24. There was a candidate for maybe it was in 25. There was a candidate who was running, who was nominated by the Democrats, who then ended up getting pushed out of the race because it turned out that this person was not actually a Democrat. Is that ringing any bells for you?
That was in 2024.
24.
So that
I guess
does happen. But that,
well, really quick, Blake, what are the structural levers that the party can use to like handle that? Because if you have someone who's running on the Democratic ticket who's like, actually, I'm not a Democrat, like that seems like it's in contrast with the spirit of the party.
yeah. So that happens at convention, and it is, I believe, 90% of delegates have to vote to remove a candidate.
Oh, wow.
So it's very, very high bar.
And so it would have to be at state convention, or does it happen at county convention? Or does it just depend on where the seat is?
It depends on where the seat is. Non-federal races that are entirely within, where the district is entirely within a county, that is voted on at county convention. And then multi-county seats and federal seats are voted at state convention.
Okay. But it's not, like the party isn't going to do something like cut off access to the voter database, redirect major donors, or like try and push them out in some other way. Like that's not something that the Democratic Party is doing, or
No,
maybe that it shouldn't be doing.
That's not something that I'm aware the Utah Democratic Party has ever done. Some states do that, and some states have a heavier hand. I know in Illinois, for example, there are incumbent protection rules, and so people who are candidates challenging an incumbent don't get access to the voter file, what is called vote builder. They can get access to that voter data in other ways. They can purchase it from NGP van directly, but they don't get access to the state party's voter file.
And NGP van, just for people to know, can you explain what that is?
Yeah, it's effectively the voter file. It's the CRM.
Customer Relationship Manager?
Yes. For elections. And so
Okay.
that has
And is that run by the state of Utah?
the state party. So
Okay.
we get the voter file. The state party gets the voter file every month. The national party actually pays for this. National party pays for vote builder and for updating monthly voter file lists for every single state, except for California. California uses something else.
Interesting.
But it has data from the state voter file. It has data from people entering data into Vote Builder. So saying, I knocked on this door. This person said they're voting for all Republicans. And it has data from big data collection sources that goes to help model information. So say how likely you are to vote this year, or how likely you are to vote for a Democrat, just a generic Democrat.
Okay. So when you were the executive director, what did you privately worry about when a divisive primary was coming up or brewing? Like, I'm sure there were moments where you were like, oh no.
Yeah, it's my goal has always been to build democratic power in the state of Utah. And so when there was a primary, my internal thought was always like, all right, fingers crossed that the strongest candidate wins, which didn't always happen, and the candidate who's going to, frankly, be the most friendly to the party, which also didn't always happen. There are some candidates who don't want anything to do with the party, who don't care about the party, who don't think that the party has any power, any reason to exist. And that was always difficult to work with because I want to help them. I want them to succeed. But you can't, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So that was
Was there anything do you have issues getting people outside of Salt Lake County to engage with the party more so than within Salt Lake County?
No, I think it's kind of the same everywhere. They're just, it really depends on if the person things that well, let me break it down like this. There's some candidates who file and are kind of candidate in name only, I guess. They filed so that they could be on the ballot and give people an option to vote for, and that's fine if that's the only thing that we're going to get. If we don't have somebody who's going to run a strong campaign, it's at least good to give voters a choice on the ballot. There are also people who are going to run a campaign and not run it well because they don't know or they don't care to learn about what running a campaign actually is. And that's more of a concern for me. So
Interesting.
yeah.
So parties do have limited resources, right? And some candidates don't want to use those. That might be nice. So how did you as executive director balance the need to be a neutral arbiter, but also understand that there are scarce donor dollars that you and your chair are actively trying to raise all day, every day, like especially in a resource-strapped state like Utah? Like we're not California, we're not New York. So how did you balance some of that?
Yeah, we have our, the state party will look at the races that the candidates that they have. They'll look at the races before filing happens and kind of get an idea of what level each race is. If it's, a top priority, if it's kind of a little bit lower, or if it's just, it's great to have a candidate there, but we really don't have the ability to put funds into a race where last year a Republican won by 50 points.
Yeah.
And then, I tried my best, and I think the current party is also doing the same. They're trying their best to provide some resources to everybody, but to be clear and upfront about what the party can give and what they can't give to everybody. Everybody's always a little bit annoyed with the party, which is fair. That's just part of it, and feel like the party doesn't do enough for them. And, to them, I would say the party's doing everything we can, please. We are struggling here in a super minority state. We're doing the best we can. We are underpaid and trying to just get everything that we can for you.
Interesting.
But when I was ED, it was every district gets a little bit of support, and the higher up priority you are, you get more support from us.
What defines priority?
Just like what I talked about before, like how if it's like a swing seat that we think that we can flip or that we need to protect versus a seat that has some potential in the future but it's not flippable right now versus a seat where, a Republican won by 50 points.
So in the current congressional races, looking just at the House, you have congressional districts 1, 2, 3, and 4. You would prioritize Congressional District 1 funds and resources over like Congressional District 2 or 3?
Kind of, but 1 is kind of a safe, dense seat.
So this is the opposite problem. It's, it looks really good for Democrats, so you would actually say you don't actually need the resources. We should flip this to someone else who can use that more.
Yes. And that's pretty normal, actually, to expect a seat like that to contribute more than they're getting out. As if I were ED right now with this district, I would say, I'd have meetings with the nominee, whoever it is, at the end, or with all the candidates right now, and say, post primary, if you're the nominee, I'm looking at for you to pull your weight and to really help the candidates down ballot. So there are, I think, 5 state house districts in CD1 that are held by a Republican. There's 1 state Senate district up this year held by a Republican. And there's a county council district that is held by a Republican that is entirely within CD1. I would go to the nominee, whoever it is, or to all the candidates right now and say, post-convention, I need you to raise as much money as possible, and I need you to campaign hard in these districts so that we can flip them. You're going to have long coattails, and I need you to drag these other people across the line.
Hi, Kitty. What's your cat's name?
That's Jack, and then
Oh.
Buffy is somewhere else.
Jack is a very cute, handsome gentleman. Thank you for
He's a
joining
nice-
us.
Nice guy. Thank you, Jack. Yeah, I would say to the candidates, I need you to pull your weight, and I need you to help build Democratic power down ballot.
Okay, cool. All right, Thom. Well, for our final question, we always like to ask, what is one thing that is bringing you joy, sparking curiosity, or deepening prosperity for you right now?
I have just finished with the Lord of the Rings audiobooks, and I'm about a third of the way through the Silmarillion
Oh,
audiobook. I listen to audiobooks when I garden. I have a quarter-acre yard that I'm xeriscaping and planting a lot of perennials in, whether those are perennial fruits or perennial veggies, and it's a lot of work. So I get to spend a lot of time listening to Andy Serkis narrate the Silmarillion.
that sounds great. The Great Salt Lake, thanks you very much. All right, Thom DeSiren, thank you so much for joining us around the counter. And thanks to everyone listening for pulling up a stool today. If you want to keep this conversation going, head over to our Substack to read our latest deep dives and check out our episodes on YouTube and Instagram. If this episode made you think of something, made you think of someone, share it with them right now. See you later.